Now you are.
Okay. Good afternoon, class. My name is Ali Kimon, and I'm here to do a presentation, and I will highlight the negative effects of deforestation. So when I was in high school, I was in AP environmental class, and we actually went on a field trip to a STEM project. And in that STEM project, they had a model of a forest. And on that forest, they showed us the negative effects of deforestation. And that really made an impact on me because I feel like I really care about the environment and about animals, and I feel like everyone should be. And in that model, it was devastating to figure out that agriculture is like one of the main causes of deforestation. And here, in this photo, you can see that by the National Geographic website, they show that 30% of the world's land area is covered by forest. And forests are important in increasing quality and amount of water, as well as oxygen, and everyone likes oxygen, right? So that's, yeah. And I wanted to show an image of what deforestation looks like. So this is the image of deforestation after. And you can see that obviously no species can live here, you know? And all the trees are cut down. So another statement by National Geographic was that the most dramatic impact is loss by habitat for millions of species. So 80% of the Earth's land, animals, and plants live in forests, and many cannot survive deforestation. So due to deforestation, the biodiversity as species is making it the leading cause of extinction. And this image, I feel like it shows how the deforestation has an impact on animals. So it shows, you obviously see the tree is cut, so that's obviously deforestation, and you see the animal's head, the gorilla. I don't know if this is really graphic for you guys, I'm sorry, but his head is cut off. So it shows the impact of deforestation and how animals are affected, being killed. So this image shows that. As of December 2005, an estimated 40% of Earth's land is being used for growing crops or grazing cattle, and compared to just 7% in the 1700s. So agriculture is obviously making, the environment is no longer sustainable due to agriculture. And I have a graph here that shows that cattle ranching is one of the main causes of deforestation. So you see logging, other large-scale agriculture, small-scale cattle ranching. So the image shows the main cause of deforestation, the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. That's what it shows. And I feel like we should just worry about our future, because due to deforestation, we're losing oxygen pretty much, and we're still reproducing. Our population is increasing, and as the population increases, the oxygen is going down, so we eventually die. And then species, if we no longer have species, we no longer have food. And we obviously need to think about our children and what we need to do in order for them to survive, you know? And you must also put the future in consideration. With deforestation, it also causes global warming. So with no winter, no glaciers, no Arctic animals, no oxygen surrounding us, there will be no forest. So yeah, that's my speech. Oh, that's an image.
All right, Junior, you're up. What did you think?
Well, I really enjoyed the fact that he made sure that his personal story connected to his topic of deforestation. I actually like the fact that he's shown empathy for the fact that he cared about the environment and he's just not speaking about the topic just to speak about it. The two main things that I found that were strong was that he kept eye contact at a decent level, and he kind of seemed like he knew what he was talking about. Now, when it comes to improving, I would improve the fact that you did mention cattle ranching with like a big concern of deforestation. Now, I'm pretty sure majority of us don't know what that is. So, like if you were to elaborate what that was, that might have improved the speech. Another thing that you might want to improve is to try to focus on the fact that you don't need to be such in a formatic way of when you're speaking. Don't try to like, okay, I have to say this in order to say this and this and this and this. So kind of just let it flow. The visual aids were pretty solid, and yeah, I feel like the speech was overall at a decent level.
Okay. Well, I agree with a couple of things that you said. I like the story at the beginning. That should be your attention device. Instead, you start with, here's my name and here's my topic, which I told you not to do. So I'm going to slap you around a little bit for that. Don't do that. Start with that story that you got. You know, when I was in high school, I went with my AP class to the stem cell, or the STEM project, not stem cell, but the STEM project where they had a model set up to talk about deforestation. And I was really fascinated with that because I didn't realize how vast the jungle was that had been deforested down in South America. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're dependent on this. This is something that is important to us, and we ought to be paying attention to it. So today I want to talk to you about this particular issue and that kind of thing. And it's when he's talking about sounding mechanical a little bit, I think you start sounding mechanical when you have your topic, and then you go to your slides and you just say, and what this slide shows is this, and what this slide shows is this, and what this slide shows is this. And once again, it's a little bit like I was talking about earlier with Ashley. You're becoming the narrator you're explaining what the slide is without explaining what the slide explains and how it fits into what it is that we're talking about. So one of the things the biggest problem that I saw is that this is not very clearly organized and there aren't good transitions between the points. You've got information in the speech that's good, but I'm not exactly sure how it's put together. And it shouldn't be that hard. I think that there might actually be an organizational pattern in your speech, but you did nothing to highlight it and signpost it while you were speaking. So the first, like a series of questions, it's topical in nature. What is deforestation? Well, deforestation is the process by which the forest is removed typically for a variety of purposes, and then what's left is unable to provide the nutrients, the protection for the animals, blah, 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 blah. Here's an image of a deforested area in South America, and you can see how significant the damage is in this particular area, as opposed to the way it looked before, and kind of give us those pictures. Now, why is it that we should care about deforestation? Well, let's talk about that. And if you have it phrased as a series of questions, for instance, I could hear that and say, that's where I am at any given point in the speech. But you don't have that. It's just like, and this next thing is, and this next thing is, and I think part of it goes along with the slides. The slides, you're being driven by the pictures instead of letting the pictures supplement your work. You're kind of making them the focus of what you're talking about. And as a consequence, it doesn't really hang together the way it should. I did hear some reference material at the beginning from the National Geographic. You've got some statistical information on a couple of the slides. I assume that that's maybe from the same source, although I'm not positive about that. When he mentioned the clear cutting thing, or excuse me, the cattle ranching thing, one of the things that you need to talk about is that deforestation occurs for a variety of issues around the world. Here's what's going on in Brazil near the Amazon rainforest, which is one of the most important rainforests in the world, that sort of thing. We're losing this much every year, every day, whatever it happens to be. And what are we losing to? cattle ranching. Large areas are being cleared so that they can feed cattle on it, and so cattle can graze and people can be fed, but we're losing all of this other stuff that is important to the environment. I can see where he's talking about. You need to kind of explain a little bit about what's going on there. And it was the biggest issue that you had there. In essence, I mean, what you're saying is that the world's demand for beef is going to lead to our destruction because we're so anxious to have so much beef, we're killing ourselves. You know, that's all your fault because you had to have a Big Mac today. You know, that kind of thing. Tell a story. I know it's almost a little bit argumentative, but there's, you know, it's not just random information, you're presenting it for a reason, and I think that you need to kind of explain those reasons a little bit more. The visual images are okay, except like sometimes you have to explain them, and I'm going, why are you explaining the picture with the gorilla missing? You know, at the top. It's a weird looking picture, I understand that, but what you need to do is you need to kind of give us an explanation of the subject first and say, you know, if we were lopping off 30% of the rainforest, that would be pretty devastating. But we're also lopping off 30% of the you know, habitat, the animals that live in that habitat. And then you could show the picture and I'd know what was going on immediately, instead of you're having to explain, and that's a picture you can see like they cut off the gorilla as if it was, you know, a third of the tree, you know, that kind of thing. That's just as awkward when you have to explain something like that. That would be something that's fixed by setting it up a little bit more before you show the image. And then the image will make the point that you're making instead of you're having to explain it. We get to the end of the speech and I'm going to beat you again because you finished. So you start with what I told you not to start with. My name is, and here's my topic. And you finish with what I told you not to finish with, and that is, and that's my speech. Thank you. You need a better exit line than that. You need to find some way. You know, if we don't do something about the rainforest, today's Big Mac is going to be tomorrow's devastated future, or something. You know, some just declarative statement that makes the point that you're trying to make, instead of the Porky Pig exit that you're giving us. Right? You know that one I'm talking about. That's all, folks.